Okay, welcome back from Sin Nombre, released in 2009. Let's do a quick conclusion wrap-up, and let me tell you a few more things about some of the elements that went into this film. I think it was a pretty good film. Hope you liked it. Might have been a little tense. Again, might have been a little bit scary. Some of the intensely violent scenes, especially when they beat the living hell out of that kid Smiley. Oh, jeez. I'm not even sure that was fake. Scary. I think they probably gave the kid a tattoo on his lip, too. That was equally scary. Anyway, you saw a lot of violence, and of course there are those in Mexico and in America who say, this is depicting Mexico in a really bad light, and not all of Mexico is like this. And I agree. I want you to know, first and foremost, Mexico is closing in on a fully developed state status. It's one of the top 20 world economies. There are tons of literate people there and a thriving, diversified economy and some of the best universities in the Americas. So this is depicting, kind of the underbelly of Central American and Mexico's society. It's not representative of the entire society. It's like The Godfather in America. It's kind of a crime drama thriller thing. That's not representing America. It's representing a criminal element that's happening in America. That's the way I would compare Sin Nombre. But it wonderfully weaves in some of these themes of immigration and ideas about family and gangs, family and regular families. A lot of things going on in here, which I think makes it a pretty good film. And again, hopefully you were engaged by it and liked it. So what was not shown in the film, you saw a lot of violence and these gangs and people running around doing stuff. What was not shown is that a lot of this criminal element, the gangs specifically, have been fueled by the drug cartels of Mexico for decades now. Unless you've been living under a rock for the last decade, you probably heard about these huge multi-billion-dollar, maybe multi-trillion-dollar criminal organizations, again, like mafias, that are called the Mexican drug cartels. There's more than one. There's more than two. At any given point, there's 6, 7, 8, or a dozen of these suckers that are fighting over territory of Mexico in order to move drugs into the United States. Because in this beautifully horrific symbiotic relationship, the United States is the biggest consumer of illicit narcotics and drugs on planet Earth. And now Mexico is the biggest supplier of those drugs to Americans. What a great relationship. Yes, and that results in billions and billions and billions of dollars every year floating from bored American people into the pockets of these criminal organizations, which do kind of terrorize Mexican society in different places. These folks got so out of control that in 2006, the Mexican government, under one President Felipe Calderon, declared a war on drugs, a war on the drug cartels, and actually enlisted the federal army to start attacking and going after these folks. Now, one might think, well, that's a great idea. Yeah, you probably need to go take care of these mafias. However, of course, these criminal elements are armed to the teeth. They have billions of dollars at their disposal to buy top-of-the-line weapons, and they're fighting each other for control of territory, so they have no problem fighting the government either, nor terrorizing the Mexican population into compliance. So what you've had since 2006 is something on the order of 110, 120, 130,000 people have been killed in these cartel wars, as the government fights the cartels, as the cartels fight each other, and as the cartels just kill anybody who gets in their way. Perhaps up to 25 or 30,000 people missing on top of that. So this is a issue near and dear to the hearts of Mexican people, and who come down on one side of it or another. There's a lot of people saying, why are we bleeding to death so that Americans can have easy access to drugs? Maybe we should legalize everything. But that's a lecture for another time. Just think about that. Because that was not depicted in the film. I just wanted you to understand that there's a lot of drug money down there. And this MS-13 group that you saw, they're a street gang. They're not a cartel. They're not a drug cartel. But they have evolved into being street gang muscle for a couple of the different cartels. The Sinaloa cartel and the Los Zetos are ones that spring to mind that started employing MS-13 thugs, again, as the mules. Not the ones who move the drugs, but the ones that go beat the hell out of you if you don't pay up. And maybe they're using them to move drugs in America too. I don't know, but MS-13 started again as local neighborhoodish type gangs things, and in places that are economically depressed, people don't have a lot of opportunities, and you saw that depicted in the film. It's like, well, what are you going to do? I don't want to be the one kid who's not in the gang. At least in the gang, you're in a family. You got people taking care of you. There's economic opportunity to have a better life. You see why maybe people join gangs? I'm not suggesting you join one, and certainly don't tattoo your face, but I'm always trying to get you to empathize with what's going on here. So that's how gangs start, and that's how gangs start everywhere, okay? Again, a sense of family outside of the traditional family. But these guys grew in power and significance so much that they have become employed by these billion-dollar cartels, and that's where money starts to float down, trickle down into the growth of MS-13 and others. And that's why you can find them in U.S. cities all over the place. They are now a well-funded, well-oiled international gang. They're not even a cartel. They're just kind of a street muscle gang that controls territories. And they have permeated pretty much every major U.S. city. A whole bunch of students, since I've shown this film for the last 5 years, students have said, oh no, we had MS-13 in our high school up in Northern Virginia. Oh no, we had MS-13 in our high school in New York. And it's like, wow, really? You saw the guys? People are like, oh yeah, no, we saw them getting in fights with each other. In the same neighborhood, people staking off territory, gangs fighting each other. It's like, oh my gosh, wow. Well, that's full permeation then of North America. The thing to also consider is that while these gangs originated, this particular one originated in L.A. back in the day, back in the 80s, they have ties, of course, back to all the Central American countries they're from, and they recruit heavily from both sides of the border. And they have grown in power so much in the smaller Central American states. Mexico's a big state, okay? Mexico's a big state. It's a big economy, big government, big military. Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, not so much. So these MS-13, and they're not the only one. There's many other gangs. You saw gang violence depicted in the film where one gang they were killing each other on the streets. Okay, these gangs, again, because of the drug trade that have helped fund and empower them, they have grown so powerful that in the smaller Central American countries, they almost run the show. Honestly, not to make fun of or diminish any government or any country in Central America, but these folks are better organized, have more money at their disposal, and have better weapons than the government does. So they have become a real threat of basically national security in many Central American states. It quite honestly is really scary stuff, to the point that some Central American states have asked for international aid to help stop this criminal element within their own countries. That's, again, a well-organized criminal element throughout the entire American geography, not just in Nicaragua. No, these guys are everywhere. Okay, it's a much bigger entity than, say, the government of El Salvador, with its limited resources, can fight against. So consider that as well. The other thing to consider is that you were seeing immigration. It was a major theme of this film, in addition to the gang scary stuff. But all these folks were on the train trying to get to the United States. These are economic immigrants fleeing or leaving Central America. And again, back to the gangs. Do you see why? I mean, if I had a kid in El Salvador, one of these places, I'd be saying, yeah, let's try to get you somewhere else until our government can maybe get their house in order. And here's where it gets even worse, because this is a fictional film. Here's real life. Thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of folks attempt to migrate from the Central America through Mexico into the United States every year. MS-13 and all the other criminal gangs and the cartels themselves have basically started attacking these immigrants as a money-making device. So you saw that depicted in the film. Regularly, these folks are rounded up and robbed, systematically robbed, just taken all. The cartels have now gotten to the point where they forcibly take males and enlist them in their cartel army. So basically saying that you're conscripted. You now work for the Los Zetas cartel, or we can kill you. So basically, kidnapping. They rob them. They kidnap some of them and ransom them back to their families in Central America. They conscript some of them, and a bunches of them they just kill. So over the course of the last several years, there have been mass graves of immigrants uncovered across the Mexican countryside. And when I say mass graves, 50, 60 people dead, 150, 160 people dead, all in one open pit that are the victims of gang activity or cartel activity. So think about the trials and tribulations of these folks who feel they have no opportunity in the places they're at, in Central America, who feel like that they have no future there, especially maybe for their kids, who want to move or get to the United States to try to earn money for their family. And of course, the United States is going to try to stop them at the border. That's a whole other issue. But to get to that point, they have to run a gauntlet through Mexico against criminal elements like this. It's truly a horrifying situation. And that's really what I want you to think about, is to empathize. Immigration in the United States is a huge, big deal issue now, and the presidential election's coming up, so it's going to be even bigger. Think about what is really going on here with these humans, these families of people who are trying to make a better life for themselves, and what they're willing to sacrifice and attempt to do to get to America to have a better life for themselves, right? The last note on that is a lot of folks in the United States who are completely clueless all think, immigrants, well, they're taking our jobs, and they're all Mexicans. Mexicans coming to take our jobs. This film actually depicted the reality much better, which is it's a lot of folks from Central America. Yes, there's still lots of folks that come from Mexico to migrate to the United States, but Mexico is a top 20 world economy. Mexico is almost a fully developed country. Mexico has big cities. Mexico has a diversified economy. Mexico has a lot of stuff going on. 100 million Mexicans are not trying to get across the border to the United States. In fact, there's been reverse migration here in the last several years, where lots of Mexicans from the United States, legal or illegal, have moved back to Mexico because there's a lot of economic opportunity. What you saw depicted in this film is closer to the facts, which is, yeah, there's a lot of Central Americans whose states are nowhere near on the economic or political order of Mexico that are trying to get to the United States. And so I just hope that you now have a deeper understanding of the human dramas that unfold daily for tens of thousands of migrants, immigrants, economic immigrants or otherwise, of gang members, of the why people join gangs, of the criminal activity itself in this part of the planet, and the effects that tens of millions of regular citizens on both sides of the U.S.-Mexican border have to deal with because of the drug trade and all of the things that go along with that drug trade. Basically, all these issues, immigration, drugs, family, society, life, these are all American issues. And by American issues, I mean North American, South American, and all the American in between, which is what you just saw depicted in this very film called Sin Nombre. Hope you enjoyed it. Muchas gracias and buenos dias.